Since I was taking apart the battery pack outside in the backyard, no cover, nothing, and it started raining, I had to cover it up with a tarp overnight, and then the next day I could get back to it after the rain stopped, and that's when I made this horrible discovery that could be thousands of dollars in losses. And that's where I ended last week's video. And if you haven't seen that yet, there will be a link at the top of the screen, also down below in the description. And don't forget, go right now and hit the like button. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to our channel. I just opened the battery pack. Well, I pulled the tarp off, and as you can see here, wow, there's water here. There's water down here on all of those. A little less here, maybe not. Well, to about this one, we got water right here. So I must have taken on water, I don't know, through the tarp. There is that thing. There's this one grommet here in the middle of the tarp, and I don't know if it could take on that much water. Holy moly. So I gotta get these out really fast here and make sure I get them dried up. I hope it didn't do any damage. A few interesting things about these battery packs. This here is about 1,200 pounds heavy, so it's a pretty heavy pack. It has 16 modules. Each module has 444 cells. These cells are 18650, so they're 18 millimeters in diameter and 65 millimeters high, so they're a little bit larger than a AA battery. So, but there's a whole bunch of them in here. Interestingly, Tesla made battery packs from 60 to 100 kilowatts, and they used up to 16 modules, but they used a few less modules with even fewer cells for like a 60 kilowatt battery pack. Also, the number given of battery cells for the 90 kilowatt hour battery pack is the same as for the 85 kilowatt hour battery pack that I'm working on here. So it's kind of interesting stuff. And so there is some discussion about how many kilowatt hours these battery packs really have. Tesla may have mislabeled those. And some people talk about there potentially being a buffer, so we cannot actually use the full capacity. Got them all out, so we can see right here, and here there was no water, but then here it started and it got, well, yeah, more and more. Even had some in there. On the other side, we were dry except for this one right here, and I think that's the one where this little grommet was in the tarp. So I wonder if all the water came in through there. Back here where we got the contactors, oh yeah, the contactors, that is the actual reason that the pack was swapped out. All the battery modules were fine, but under this white cover there where the yellow arrow is pointing at, that's where the two contactors are that started to fail and gave us a fault code and a power limitation. The only reason this whole pack came out, otherwise it would still be in and going. And another control board. We also got some water right there, so I still gotta get this out, and then we're pretty much safe. Got a whole bunch of battery modules laying around here now. Water doesn't mean immediate death. I don't think that these are damaged now, even though they had some water here. This was just overnight and it was rainwater, so I don't think rainwater contains minerals and stuff. So I would assume it's not really creating an issue since it hasn't been long. It has been cold. I would assume that helps. I don't know. Let me know down below in the comments if you know this stuff. But I think I just need to basically get those dry right now, and we should be just fine. I just took this here off, and I was kind of surprised to see that much dirt in here. I mean, we drove it for what, about a year or so here on this dirt road. So certainly there's a lot of dirt here, but I didn't expect it to get in here. We can see there's some more on this here. And let's see if I can peel this off. It's kind of sticking there. I don't know. Tearing apart. Alright. Well, there's less dirt under here. Huh. But yeah, interesting. So these, I mean, even if this here fills up with dirt, looking up, it looks like most of the holes are still open, but some of them are plugged. So yeah, so this could be a problem. I mean, if this plugs completely after a few years driving here, that could become a bigger issue, maybe. And actually in our Tesla Model 3, they replaced some of those vents initially because of a popping sound. And that was about 2 years ago, and it does it again. So I think our Model 3 is full of dirt in there, and we just need to clean those out to get rid of the popping sound again. It has been a few days now. I had all these modules sitting in here in the living room. Actually, 3 of them are not in here. 3 of them that I pulled out before the rainy night. So some of these here actually have more water than I thought. About 3 of them had quite a lot of water coming out. It was basically held in by these cases here. And these are pretty flimsy. That was kind of surprising. But yeah, they're just, these are the covers that used to be on here. So two pieces close this whole thing. So I had them first, actually, I had way more towels laid out, and I had them laying flat on the ground for a few hours. And then a few hours later, I flipped them over. And at the end of that day, I set them up like this here. And I left them sitting in here for a few days now, and they're definitely dry. Here in Montana, actually not necessarily in Montana when it's raining, we have low humidity. But in here, humidity is low. We are at 36%. So that helps drying all this stuff out. I hope there is no damage to any of those. I don't think so. I mean, these that I can see here right now, right up front, they look pretty clean, and no discoloration and nothing. So I will have to go through and check them all out. Will be a little extra work, and yeah, put them back in these cases here, which yeah, they're just very flimsy, just a little case, I guess, so to protect that it doesn't shorten out. But so I gotta put them all back in, and then we can move on with this project. And here we got the stack of 16 modules. They're here in our laundry / storage room in the house. And they've been sitting here for a while until we can move on to the next project. Well, to the solar project where they're supposed to go. At this point, I don't even remember. I think it was around 50% charge when I left them. I don't remember. It's been a long time ago, but there's no discharge here really. But I did inspect all these units and I put the plastic covers back on. So when you inspect those, let's see if we can get in here. So you can see there's all these individual cells. So there is 444 per module. And each individual cell, let's see right there, if you can see this little wire, there's a little wire. There's a little wire. These little wires are fuses. So each cell has a fuse on each side. So there's 2 fuses per cell, one on the negative, one on the positive. And if we go in a little closer again, let's see here. Let's go there. So you can see right here is the cell, and then over here it goes to this metal piece, this huge metal piece right here. And this metal piece is a collector, basically, where multiple cells are hooked to it. So we got multiple collectors per module. And so some of these cells are hooked up in parallel and others are in series. And so depending on that, these collectors are laid out. They actually have kind of funky shapes. We can see a gap right here. So this is wide and then it goes narrow down here. This one here is wide and it goes a little narrow there. There is a cut like this and this is smaller. And there's an even different shaped piece here. And then on the other side, it looks very similar here. This is actually the other side on this module. We can see here, you can see these gaps. So that's how they collect. That's how they connect them together in a series and parallel. And then we see here we got a green wire going there. We got a orange wire going there. And it's kind of hard to see, but right here is a brown wire going there. On the other side, we have different colors. We got the blue, and then we got the yellow, and then we got the red here. So these are for the BMS. These measure the voltage, I believe. And the BMS has a board right here. This here at the end. That's where all these wires go to. They come in there and they go to this board, and this board basically collects the data, and this is considered a slave that then sends the information to the main BMS. And so this is at one end here of the module. On the other end of the module, we got the coolant lines. So these are the fittings here where the coolant lines hook up to. So that's on the opposite side of these BMS boards. And I believe there is also a temperature. I don't know where the temperature actually is sensed, if it's just on the board here or if there's sensors in there. If you know, leave a comment down below. But yeah, when I checked those out, obviously I had to go through and I checked the whole thing for discoloration. Basically, there could be like sulfate, not sulfate, but like a corrosion, whitish buildup. There could be rust-ish buildup, I guess. I mean, this is all stainless, so there shouldn't really be anything. There could be discoloration here on the plates from like overheating if something happened discharge-wise while it was underwater. And the fuses, each one of those little fuses had to be checked on both sides. So I checked 888 fuses per module. Go through and actually at that time I didn't have these plastic covers. I don't know if you can see it here. I can lift up this plastic cover. I didn't have those plastic covers on, so I was going through and touching each one of those little fuses, making sure it's there and not damaged. And I didn't find any discoloration whatsoever of any kind. Everything looked nice and shiny, like you can see here with these two modules. All the fuses were perfect, so there was no issue there. So I don't think it did anything to those battery modules while they were sitting in water for a night. They seem to be all just perfectly fine. Also, I measured the voltage again. And the voltage on each module you can measure over here. It's on this end. We got the positive and negative. I don't remember right now off the top of my head which one's which, but you can measure it. And so these we consider nominal 24 volts. I believe when I measured them, they were like 22 point something. So, but they're not fully charged either. But when we talk nominal, it's just like in any car when we talk 12 volts. Well, actually, you're never really at 12 volts. When your car is running, you're at 14 and a half even. And when your car is not running and your battery is weak, you might be even at only 11 and a half. But that's for a regular starter battery. But so these modules are a little bit different. Obviously, these are lithium ion cells, and here they have a very slight voltage variation from between 20 and 80% of charge. There's hardly any variation from 80 to 100% charge, and from 20 down to 0. That's where the voltage changes relatively drastically, and that's what the BMS uses to identify the state of charge. Yeah, they're just sitting here. I need to come up with a great idea, either building a rack, but steel is ridiculous expensive. Don't know why. Holy crap. So at this point, I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do here. I was also thinking I could mount them onto the wall possibly, but I would like to be able to pull them off real easy if possible. So if I would have a rack, basically just kind of stack them like this, but be on a shelf. They got this little lip here on the side, so each one has a lip on each side. And if I could just have a angle iron here on the side and holding this up, that would be kind of the idea. Maybe just stack it just like this, 8 per stack right next to each other. And then from here down to the next one, I've been thinking of using copper, and I ordered already copper bars that I can bolt on here, and then basically just U-shape them, go out, go down, and go back in, and just bolt them all together. That's kind of the idea, something like that. Not sure yet. If you have any ideas, leave them down below in the comments. Maybe you've done something like that or seen something like that and have any idea on how to do this easier and maybe cheaper. Because like I said, steel is pretty expensive. I can just steel to build a rack for these here. I can easily come up to $1,000 for regular steel. So that's, yeah, kind of outrageous. But yeah, what else do we have? Oh, these here are actually, that's the coolant lines or channels or whatever they're called. So that's where the coolant flows through, and you can see this here as well on the other end. And right here you can see it goes in, and then so it goes in between. So each cell touches the cooling lines on one or the other side. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. I need to come up with some more ideas here. Maybe you got some ideas on how to build a rack, on how to best connect these modules together. I need to have a 48-volt system, which means that one pack will be hooked to the next one in series, and then these 2 packs will be hooked in parallel to the next lower level, while those 2 on the lower level, again, they're in series. So each 2 packs would be hooked in series and then in parallel from top to bottom. That's kind of the idea. Maybe you got a better idea. Maybe you have a way that is cheaper. Always looking for ways to save money. At this point, I don't really plan on running coolant on here. I guess this is a low pressure system, and you could just push a hose on here and probably even use one of the pumps out of the car that we have, out of the salvage one, to pump that around. We could even use that radiator if we needed to cool it. We could come up with a heating system for that as well. We can just use whatever heater, basically, just like in a water heater. You could use a heating element in a reservoir and then bring it up to a certain temperature, circulate it through here. But most likely this will be inside, so heating is probably not an issue. If anything, it might be cooling. But then these batteries now will never ever have to perform as hard as they do in the car. In the car, where we can pull 300 kilowatts or more out of these batteries here, out of that whole pack. We're probably not going to do that here in the house. I mean, most of the time there's a little bit something, and then once in a while maybe the microwave or the stove is on, and that will draw a little higher. But at this point, I'm actually only planning on connecting all the 120 volt outlets to our solar system and take that part completely off the grid and keep the 240 volt part still on the grid at this time and see how this performs. Well, anyway, that is it. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our channel. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for this video and for every video of ours that you watch, please. Please help us spread the word about electric cars and that they're not so bad. And that they have, that these batteries have a second life, or sometimes even more than a second life, and eventually can be recycled and are not going into the landfill. In any event, thank you for watching. Goodbye.